welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm here with this week's astrology oracle for you. We are reading a chart for Dayton, Ohio at 11:11 a.m., which presents us with a 20-degree Sagittarius sun, a 12-degree Aquarius rising, and a 9-degree Leo moon. Since Aquarius and Leo are opposites, that does mean that the moon is conjunct the descendant and opposite the ascendant. So on this day and maybe into tomorrow, it is very likely that if this chart resonates for you in any way, that your emotions may get the best of you. The opposition we see happening between Mars retrograde in Gemini and the Sun in Sagittarius does continue to be felt, although that orb is about 6 degrees. It's not a very exact opposition at this time, but no doubt we are still feeling that energy, especially if you are someone who has mutable placements. This is something I've even talked about in my newsletter recently. The Geminis, the Sag, the Pisces, and the Virgos out there are definitely experiencing a lot of energy, as we do have a tremendous amount of intensity between Mars and the Sun, and also, of course, a very, very stretched out conjunction between Neptune and Jupiter, as Jupiter is no longer retrograde and will soon move forward into the sign of Aries. But at this time, Neptune is sitting very comfortably in Pisces, which is creating a square to that Mars retrograde and also a square to the Sun in Sagittarius. Now, of course, because this is a chart that is very dominant to fixed energy with the ascendant and descendant, we are still seeing that, intensity and pressure from Saturn and Aquarius at 20 degrees. It is creating a loose trine to that Mars retrograde. And because we don't have any planets in Libra, there are no other trines expanding out. But if you are someone that has positions or placements in Libra, then you will be seeing some of that activity hitting you directly as well. And of course, Scorpio always experiencing some kind of energy this year because of that eclipse axis with Taurus. If you are a Scorpio rising or moon or sun, then you are going to be experiencing a square today from that Leo moon. And for the rest of the week, again, we just look ahead at what's coming. We do have a Mercury retrograde setting us off in 2023. We recently saw both Venus and Mercury move into the sign of Capricorn, and that is where that Mercury retrograde is going to take place. So keeping in mind any plans or, partnerships, or especially something that has to do with like legal matters or work-related issues. These could be contracts, applications, a lot of that outward extended energy at this time with Mercury and Capricorn is definitely going to be revisited. So because we know that's coming, this may not be the best time to really work with any of those kinds of documents, but would be a great time to kind of create a draft that then you can then edit during Mercury retrograde. And with Mercury in Capricorn, this is really about structure and foundation and paying attention to systems and details and really cutting away things that aren't helping things progress forward. Although it is an earth sign and ruled by Saturn, we do consider to be a very intense and very sobering sign. Capricorn is also cardinal energy, so it does want to initiate, and with Mercury in Capricorn, we will need to initiate something that has a long-term stability built behind it. And so because retrogrades do tend to be a poor time to kind of set things off for a very stable start, again, use this time to write, then edit, and hold off on that publishing, which is also a wise idea anyway with the Mars and Gemini retrograde, because it can be very hasty in its efforts to do things and get them done, and mistakes and deception can always be involved when Gemini comes into play. So that is just our little spiel. If you would like more astrology insights like what I just gave you, then please consider subscribing to my newsletter. I send out a dispatch every Tuesday with a little more esoteric breakdown of what's going on and what I'm sensing you should know about. Also, for those who are local to the Dayton, Ohio area, on December 30th, I will be in Moraine at Find Me in the Woods Apothecary, and you can come and sip some tea with me, enjoy some gingerbread, and I will be doing a very complete and in-depth reading on 2023. You will need an advanced booking for this just so I can create your birth chart, but I will be doing a combination of tarot, oracle, and astrology to give you all of the resources and perspectives that I can offer to help you plan and set yourself up for success in the new year. So if that is something that you're interested in, please do reach out to Find Me in the Woods on Facebook, or you can message me on Instagram and we will get you an appointment. I only have 3 out of 4 left. And speaking of what's left, we don't have a huge deck here. I mentioned this again last week. Whatever is here is really emphasizing the energy that we're dealing with, because we only have 8 cards to go over until this series is complete, which is really hard to believe, but here we go. We're going to go with this card today, Venus. Love. Venus is one of my favorite planets to discuss, not only because I'm a Libra sun and Mercury, but because Venus is such a misunderstood planet. As we can see, the mantra here is love, and that is coming from that Libran energy. Venus has 2 zodiacal rulers, Taurus and Libra, and they come at it from 2 very, very different perspectives. So as a Libra, again, Venusian qualities are right up my alley. You can see I've got my wings on today. I've got my hair down. And Venus is very much about aesthetics. You know, it's your sense of style. It's your taste, the way that you decorate your house. You know, whether you're more eclectic or whether you're more Scandinavian in style, let's say. You can definitely look to your Venus as well as Mercury and some other placements like your Sun for some insight on, you know, where you get your taste, where you get your sense of style. And that's another thing that Venus rules over, is your senses. And that's more where Taurus comes in. This is, you know, our favorite kind of food and the way that we take our coffee. But it also, on a very important level, not that those things are not important, Venus also rules over our sense of security and stability, and also our value system. Now, if you've ever had a reading from me or have listened to me speak either in person or on the Clubhouse app, then you know I have been talking about values and value systems very heavily for the last 2 years. And I think a big reason for that is because I myself, going through my Saturn return, have really been tuned into what my values are. And as a Scorpio Venus, this year has been eclipsing over my Venus sign, and has really brought into question a lot of the things that I want to live my life and base my life around. So Venus, again, we have the airy Libra, and we also have the earthy Taurus side to Venus. The thing about Venus is she's not all about light and airy and beautiful things. You know, one thing about Libra is it is the opposite to Aries. And interestingly, Taurus being the opposite of Scorpio, Aries and Scorpio's traditional rulers are both Mars. And when we think about what the archetypes of Mars are, they do feel very oppositional to Venus. You know, Venus is much more diplomatic. It wants everyone to get along. It can be very self-sacrificing, or just being willing to sacrifice in general, where Aries especially would rather fight, and Scorpio would rather dig deeper for a more profound and esoteric reason and inspiration. Venus does tend to be a little bit more on the surface, and that does largely have to do with the fact that it does rule over our aesthetics. But, you know, again, sense of security and stability. Taurus is associated with the 2nd house, and often when I look at a chart and I look to the 2nd house, this is a great indicator of, you know, money matters and how you bring in an income into your house, the things that you own. I do believe I've done a video on the 2nd house, so if you're interested to learn more or even about Taurus, then check those out. I've also done a video on Libra and the 7th house of intimate partnerships, which is also very Venusian territory. But, you know, Venus gives us such an indication of, you know, what we need to feel secure. And yes, we can relate that to relationships because we are social species and we all do have some form of relationships. but it can also give a lot of insight into like the relationships that we have with ourselves. So again, as a Scorpio in Venus, but also someone who has their Venus in the 12th house, you know, Venusian things are very fascinating to me. I feel as though I have really built my own sense of values, and when it comes to a sense of security and stability, that has been very different for me, in that Uranus and Neptune both sit in my second house, wreaking a little bit of havoc now and again. But yeah, it's very interesting to just kind of think about, you know, Venus being associated with two signs, as many planets can be. It has such a dynamic and, you know, really colorful energy behind it. You know, yes, this card is mantra, is love, but Venus is also, you know, social justice matters. It's fairness and equality. And at a time like this, and by that I certainly do mean, you know, I am referencing here the very horrific rise in anti-Semitism and action being taken against the LGBTQ community. Venus does have something to do with legalities, thanks to Libra being associated with these things and the law and justice. And, you know, when we look at Venus on the surface level, again, we do see the pretty things and the intimacy and the romance. But as I mentioned many times yesterday in some readings I was doing, Libra, when it has to balance, if it's balancing something really, really awful, then what has to come down to create that balance is going to be just as intense, just as serious, and just as profound. You know, so the Libra and the Taurus energy that we associate with Venus has a depth to it that, you know, is often not presented to the world, because those kinds of things aren't necessarily aesthetically pleasing. That doesn't mean they are not there. That doesn't mean they don't exist, right? Just because people are good at putting on a front and keeping everybody in the group happy and cordial doesn't mean that they're not also dealing with some things themselves. And Venus is just a reminder that, you know, love is complicated, relationships are complicated, a sense of security, especially in very unsecure times like these, they're very complicated matters. And sometimes we do have to dig a little bit deeper, right? Get into that Scorpio side, balancing out that Taurus. And sometimes we do have to fight, bringing out that more Aries side. I will say too that in the chart that I am reading for this oracle card, we do have the second house ruled by Aries opposite to Libra, and we also do have Taurus in the third house. So we're seeing that kind of focus on the self and the very interior. You know, typically when we look at a birth chart, the first 6 houses or so, they're very personal in that this is our health and our routines and our family life and our communication styles and how we've learned a lot of these things. And then as we rise to the 7th and 12th houses, we get out into the world and experience this with other people. And both the second house and the 7th house and Taurus and Libra, they do both, right? That Taurus earthiness in the second house where we very much associate it, you know, and then again, you step out into the world in the Libra way and you have to find partnerships, you have to find connections. And at a time like this, when values and things like that, in my opinion, are so important to a spiritual practice, I think this Venus card comes at really a perfect time to remember that your values matter, you know? And again, we have Venus right now in the sign of Capricorn, and I will tell you, Venus in Capricorn, that is very much about recognizing what's working and what's not working. You know, again, Capricorn is a cardinal sign, much like Libra is. And this, you know, Capricorn Venus experience that we're going to be having over the next month or so is, again, just a great reminder to evaluate what your values are, evaluate, you know, who you keep company with, where you spend your money. I've suggested and have said many of these same things on this video series before, but, you know, we are in the peak of capitalistic season here in the United States during the holiday season. And, you know, it doesn't hurt to just really think about, why am I being motivated to spend money, or why am I not? Where am I spending my money? Whom am I spending this money on? And then what am I going to be left with when all is said and done? Again, Capricorn is very good at seeing things in a very progressive way, in a systematic way. And that does also maybe have some Aquarius tendencies, which does shortly follow Capricorn. But it's really about seeing, like, can I make this investment? Is this worth my investment? And what kind of return on that investment, is really beneficial to all, is putting effort into your relationships actually helping you? Like, are these relationships that should be cut off or managed? Are you being wise about your spending? Are you even spending according to your values? And I think people do struggle a lot with understanding what their values are, just because I don't think that we're very encouraged to explore our own set of values. So I am here today encouraging you to explore your values. Now, I love to bring out my little book. So, John Keats is the quote, "Love is my religion, and I could die for that." The Venus card says to let love take care of it for now. Venus is the morning star and the brightest of the planets. It is the planet of beauty and balance and is named after the goddess of love and romance, which the planet rules. In the Scandinavian lands, the equivalent of the Roman goddesses Venus was Freyja. Among the Greeks, she was Aphrodite. Venereal disease is named for Venus. After all, she charms and seduces. I don't know if I like how that's written. She was once associated with Lucifer, who is not a demon, but an angel of light who fell to the earth plane from the heavens. In reality, the part of the astrological chart Venus rules is where we want the good life, where we desire ease and comfort, sweets and kisses, where we want to see beautiful, be beautiful, and smell beautiful. Venus co-rules the signs of Libra and Taurus, but the energies function differently in these signs. In Libra, Venus works best in the fields of beauty, social balance, and romantic love, while in Taurus, Venus stands for creature comforts and accumulating fineries. In both signs, Venus is very partner-oriented. There is a great need to unite with another when Venus presents itself. This can bring on codependency and fears of going at it alone. Both Libra and Taurus are signs supported in some form of partnership, although it does not have to be romantic or marriage. Venus is the lesser Neptune. Love, romance, and art are her domains, yet she does not get lost in them and lose her practical side. In fact, Venus is the planet of fashion, luxuries, balance, symmetry, artistic ability, and sugary foods. She prefers to overlook the ugliness of the world. Buying objects that are beautiful, unnecessary, and excessive may come into play when this card is drawn. Hello, the holidays. Be careful of wasting funds on items just because you want them. You may feel compelled to buy something beyond your budget because you think it's beautiful, though you don't need it. On the other hand, you may also be attracting things on your own. Venus rules money, especially money shared in a partnership or marriage, but also a business enterprise. Money worries need find resolution. Art, hair salons, restaurant, movies, concerts, dance recitals, craft shows, cosmetics, and fashion may figure in. You may be dealing with artists or people who work in the arts. You may discover a more creative and artistic side to yourself. I also do think that the Neptune and Venus is very supportive of that energy. Venus is the most humane and fair of the planets, so you may also be compelled to settle a dispute. Courts, law, and judgments may also factor in. But more than this card indicates new love coming into your life or the improvement or new start for an older lover relationship. When Venus presents itself in a reading, the first thing to focus on is romance and love, and then creativity and refinement. And, I've really been seeing a lot of people who are having like a blast from the past pop up and kind of present some new romantic material, I guess you could say, to deal with. So this card definitely, I feel like, is calling to the people who I have connected with who are experiencing that. So if you are experiencing that, how very Mars retrograde of you. And with Mercury retrograde coming up as well, Yeah, more lovers could creep in. We also can't deny the fact that, I mean, hello, Capricorn season is right before Aquarius season when Valentine's Day takes place. So this is really a time of the year where people want to be partnered. They want to take someone home to their family for the holidays. They want to break bread and have meals with a loved one, or at least with someone they can share a good space with. But romance is slowly but surely coming in the air, and I love Valentine's Day. As an Aquarius moon, that syncs up right to my favorite time of the year. Venus is the planet of charmers, so you may want to pour on the charm in a situation. There's a tendency to become more socially engaged. People could be more sweeter and helpful to you, and it's tend to be just a good period of smoothing ruffled feathers and making peace. So, I'd love to know if that resonates for you, my dears. If you would leave a comment below and share some insights with us about how that is hitting for you. And if you want to take it a step further, then comment your Venus placement. I would love to know. That is all I have for you this week in the astrology oracle world, but I will see you next week. Bye.